Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom, and today I have something a little bit different to share with you. I was recently a guest on my friend Jeremy Sutton's podcast, The Entrepreneur Rising. And it was such a different interview that I don't normally do, and we covered some really important topics that I thought, hey, you need to hear this. So in this episode, we talk about obviously helping you build your business with family and COVID 19 that's happening, and the current state of our country, and we also cover Pinterest and some other stuff, but it's a really good one. So I hope you enjoy, and let's dive in. Welcome to the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. I'm an entrepreneur, mom, adventure lover, and creator of Pin with Purpose, the Impact Blogging Academy, and Activate. I went from food stamps and negative $400 in my checking account to a multiple six-figure online business. This is your show to learn from me and other rockstar entrepreneurs how to monetize your passion and live out your purpose. If you're ready to increase your income while making a massive impact on the world, this is the show for you. I'm so pumped you're here. Let's get started.
As long as you have the right tools and the right resources, like you can, and it's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of being resourceful. And so, like when we were on food stamps, I didn't have the money to invest in a big program, but I sold our furniture and our TV and our, just things to find the money. Because I think you can figure it out. You'll just figure it out. A lot of the mentors that, my personal mentors, they weren't born into money. A lot of them struggled financially and just figured it out. And so when you're resourceful, you can make it happen.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Rising podcast. I'm Jeremy Sutton. My family and I have survived business failure, bankruptcy, and lawsuits, and I'm on a mission to rise from all of that and grow my online business. I'm talking to top entrepreneurs to learn how they've overcome their own struggles to be successful in life and business. Come learn and rise with me. Hey, everybody, it's Jeremy Sutton. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Rising podcast. I'm here with Rachel Gome today, and we're going to be talking about her podcast. She's making an impact podcast. We're going to talk about Pinterest and just online business and all the amazing things that she's going to tell us about. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, hey, I just like to start out the show a little bit with you just kind of telling your story of who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it, things like that.
Yeah, so I guess it all starts back when got my master's in social work, lived in Africa for a while. Um, Moved to Florida, couldn't find a job even with my master's from the number one program in the country. We ended up really struggling financially on food stamps. Started a business out of necessity, not because I thought I was born to be an entrepreneur or anything like that, but saw the potential of what was possible. And we took that business to six figures. And I got a lot of questions about how I was growing my influence in social media. That business, the company that I was a part of, restructured. My income was cut in half, and I started this business August of 2017, which like it feels like it was yesterday, but also that's a long time ago. And we were able to just grow really quickly on teaching people how to use Pinterest for lead generation, everything that I did in my first business to grow so quickly. And it has been a pretty wild ride. And
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. So, I like to do a little research with people before I get on because I don't want to be like completely unaware of what's happening. But I saw your husband, is it Luis or Lewis?
Lewis.
So, did you meet him in Africa?
Yes. Yeah. I
Awesome.
moved to
Awesome.
Senegal after college, before grad school. And it was so funny because my sister-in-law, like right before I left, she was like, "You're probably gonna meet some guy and like get married." And I was like, "No, that's never gonna happen." And I met him and it was like love at first sight. A couple of months later, I'm engaged. I come home, I tell my parents I'm engaged, and they're like, "To who? Like, we need to meet this person." But yeah, that was 10 years ago.
That's awesome. And he's rides horses. Tell me a little bit about what he does.
Yeah, he is an equestrian. So his whole life has been about horses. And he actually, we moved to France and we spent 2 years in France because of his career. And he does show jumping and he's just amazing at it. It's been really cool to see what he
Wonderful.
does.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And we got to see one of your kids DJ before with the podcast. He
Yeah.
thought I was going to interview him, and maybe it would have been better if we let him talk. I don't know.
I don't know. He'd be all for that, I bet.
Awesome. We'll talk a little bit about, so my background, I'm a full-time physical therapist building an online business where I help entrepreneurs write and publish books. And so, but my wife and I had a physical therapy clinic that we bought in 2016. So we bought this business. It did not go well. We ended up filing for bankruptcy.
Oh, no.
We got sued 2 times. That was in 2019, I believe. So that was my 2019 year. So I remember saying 2020 is going to be our year.
Oh, no.
And then it's not been anybody's year. so anyway, it's so funny. But so I definitely resonate with your story on, food stamps. And I grew up and I don't know how much of this I've told before, but in like a log cabin. We literally were in a log cabin, and it's still barely standing to this day. Had no telephone. I remember like seeing the holes in the floor. We just didn't have a lot of money, but we were always happy. I loved my family, and we had a good life. But so I understand where you came from. So what has it been like to go from that to now being successful and building this business that you have?
I can't say like our lifestyle has changed at all, because it hasn't really at all. We're just taking the money that we have and we're investing it and giving it away. And we have like created a plan on how we can retire by the time we're 40, 42, which will be freaking amazing.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's just knowing what's possible when you have the right tools and the right resources, and knowing that you don't have to struggle, and that I think success is possible for anybody.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I agree with that. So in today's world where we're having all this, we're going through COVID-19 right now. We're going through the civil unrest, the rioting, all those things. And it's just crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It really is crazy. And I watched a little bit of your podcast yesterday where you had your pastors on and y'all were talking about some of this. And,
Yep.
and I absolutely love that. I'm going to go back and listen to the rest of it tonight. But I think it's so important for you to say that anybody can be successful.
I truly believe that as long as you have the right tools and the right resources, like you can, and it's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of being resourceful. And so like when we were on food stamps, I didn't have the money to invest in a big program, but I sold our furniture and our TV and our just things to find the money. Because I think
Right.
you can figure it out. Like you'll just figure it out. A lot of the mentors that, my personal mentors, they weren't born into money. A lot of them struggled financially and just figured it out. And so when you're resourceful, you can make it happen.
Absolutely. I love, I don't know if it's Dave Ramsey or who said it, but there's like one guy that was like a first generation millionaire. I don't remember, it may be Dave Ramsey has talked about this. And I think like that's something that I never thought could be possible growing up.
Yeah.
My dad was a manual laborer. My mom went back to college after my sister and I graduated, and she's a teacher now. And so, but they worked very hard all my life. And my dad actually told me one time I was griping about studying for a chemistry exam. He's like, "Hey, I've dug ditches so you could go to college." And I was like, "Yes, sir." And so, but I always thought that I would have to work, 80 hours a week to make money. But it's really, if you know things and you can teach them, then you don't have to work more.
Yeah, that's one of the beliefs that I've really developed over the past couple of years, is you don't have to work super hard and crazy long hours to be able to create an awesome life and an awesome business. So like for me, family's always first, and I'll work a few hours a day, but I'm not working 80 hours a week by any means. I'm not working 40 hours a week right now, maybe 10,
Right.
because I want to make sure that I'm mom first, family first, and business comes after that.
Right. So now you're working 10 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
So early on in the business, did you have to work more hours to get to this point?
Yes. In the beginning, I worked more. I don't want to say that I worked even more than 40 hours a week, because I still don't,
Right.
I didn't. But I did more of like done for you services and private coaching to get the money to invest in being able to scale with Facebook ads and group programs, and having people on my team that could really take the pressure off of me showing up.
Yeah. How important is it to build a good team?
Oh my
Rachel?
gosh, it's everything. Like we wouldn't have the business that we have. Like it's not the business is not me, it's the team, and they do so much support behind the scenes that you like people probably don't see. But I mean, the team is everything. Like
Yeah.
it just I can't even. I remember when I used to do everything myself, and it's like you're attached to your phone because you don't want to like miss an email or anything like that. And when you have someone that's actually responding to your emails and checking your Facebook inbox and doing all these things, like you can breathe again.
Yeah, absolutely. So my sister has a master's in not business. I'm sorry, education and biology, and so she was a teacher for 10 years. She's like, I don't want to teach anymore, and so I've kind of helped her get into the online stuff. But she is my assistant, and she does everything, and so she's the one that I can't. She originally reached out to your team to see if you want to be on the podcast, and I'm just thinking, like, I remember when you showed up on my schedule, I was like, I remember asking my sister, and I'm like, oh, my sister, like, I didn't have to do this. Like, it was just such an amazing thing. Like, yes, I'm like, hey, these are the people that I want you to reach out to. But then I remember it popping up, and because I had never had anybody helping me before.
Yep.
And now you're like, oh, this is what it's like to have the part of a team that builds your business. And it's such a great thing.
Oh yeah.
Because we reach out to a lot of people daily, and she always sends the first message and I do the responding. Because I don't want to build a fake relationship, because there's so many people that use these bots or whatever, and I know most Instagram and Facebook and all have pretty much cracked down on it, but I don't want to build a fake relationship with somebody and then get them on the podcast and be like, you remember, Jeremy, you told me that thing? I'm like, no, I didn't, because it wasn't me. I want it to be me building that relationship.
For sure. Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll talk about, so Pinterest is something that I've not spent a lot of time on. I should. Let me rephrase that. I've spent a lot of time on my wife's Pinterest because I like to look at houses and pictures and things like that. But I really haven't focused my business on that. How have you used that to grow, and how do you help other people grow it?
Free traffic and free lead generation. That's pretty much what you use it for. It's think of it like a visual search engine. And so when you're trying to build your business on Facebook and Instagram, you are at mercy of the logarithm, first and foremost. And
Yes.
you have to actually disrupt people to get their attention. And with Pinterest, it's different. People are actively searching for something that they are interested in learning and purchasing something. And when they search for something, if you understand how to use keywords effectively, you can show up at the top of that search and you can start to build a relationship with that person.
Wow. So it's not like necessarily having to disrupt your scroll.
Exactly. It's you're getting much more highly qualified people. An example, someone found me on Pinterest, booked a strategy call with me, and it was a $12,000 pay in full program without me having to do, a ton of like building a relationship, because everything that we had set up from Pinterest to our email marketing and everything is automated. And she loved everything that we're about, and now is one of our clients.
Right. So you're really able to hone in on your perfect client.
Yes, exactly. And it's so evergreen. So, I have my first business is still running and we're still actually making sales, even though I haven't touched it in 2+ years, because of Pinterest and the fact that you can have content showing up years after you actually created it.
Is Pinterest really, I mean, it seems like Pinterest is really one of the social media platforms where once you put something there, it's there for forever, really.
Yeah. I mean, we have stuff driving traffic from 2015. So
wow.
I know. And then you see people working so hard on Instagram, uploading like every 10 minutes to be relevant, on stories and stuff. And it's like, there's a much smarter way to build your business.
Wow, that's amazing. And I personally do not enjoy spending time on Instagram, either posting or viewing anything. And so I love that, because I mean, even I use Facebook mostly. And so when you put something on Facebook, the next day, nobody cares about it.
Unless you're running ads, it's gone.
Yeah, I love that. And so with your Pinterest program, you're not running ads on Pinterest. Nope. It's all organic.
All organic. You can run ads on the platform, but it honestly, to me, it's too complicated. So I haven't done it. So it's all free.
That's amazing. And then, I mean, you're successful with your Pinterest program, and your clients are being successful, and y'all are doing everything organically, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
That's amazing. I love it. That is so cool. And I know, like, for years, one of my mentors has been like, Jeremy, you need to do Pinterest. And I'm like, I don't want to do Pinterest. But I think now you might have just convinced me to do Pinterest.
It's really so like as long as you're creating content on a consistent basis, which you are with your
Sure.
podcast,
Yeah.
take that content, upload it to your blog, create show notes, create a pin, drive traffic, boom.
Yeah. Wonderful. That's amazing. I love that. What resources did you use early on, Rachel, to grow your business, and what do you still use now?
In terms of like
Just whatever, like whether it be equipment or building content, or what just kind of have you used to say, hey, if I didn't have this resource to look into,
hiring a
I wouldn't have been able to
coach,
do that.
hire
Okay.
hire that
Cool.
like that's the biggest thing, and it's an investment for sure. Like the first business coach that I hired was $2,000 a month, and I was making $4,000 a month. Like it was a big investment,
Right.
but it paid itself off, and we ended up, I don't 20xing that investment our first year, which was just like mind blowing at what's possible when you have the right tools, the right training, the right support. So, because I went through so many courses, I did like B School and Marketing Impact Academy, and like I did all these things, and I still, it just for me, it really took having a mentor of someone saying, hey, this is your zone of genius, we're going to pursue this, these are the steps you need to take, and I'm teachable, especially when I have that much skin in the game, and I'm like, all right, let's go.
Right.
So for me, that has been the biggest thing, and I'll always have a coach. I have two right now, that I'm
Yeah.
working with. Um, that's been honestly the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah. And I have two coaches as well, and I 100% agree because we, or I'm not gonna say we, I tend to know what I want to do, but then it may take me a little while to do it, or I may we shiny things. I'm like, oh look, a squirrel, or this over here, and then it's nice to have that coach to come back to and say, no, like you said this was going to be done by this day.
Hmm.
Is it done? Yeah, I got it done.
For sure.
Or whatever.
Or just to call you out on your limitations. So for me, we have a group program called Activate, and I love coaching these ladies, especially now they need it. We're teaching them how to, start an online business, create, grow their online influence. And when we had our daughter, I was like, I think I'm just going to take a step back. We're not going to do another round this year. And my coach was like, no, no, no. Like people need you. You just need to hire a position to take over the sales calls and everything, and then you're set. And I was like, oh. And it's just like that little tweak of like you need to think differently and don't put these limitations on yourself that don't need to be there necessarily.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. One of my coaches, or both of my coaches right now, when I still had my business, they were like, Jeremy, they did Facebook ads early on. They're like, hey, look, we want to help you. And these two guys are amazing, which is why now I pay them. And they're like, we're just going to do whatever we can to help you for free. And I was like, okay, but they were able to drive like 52 leads to my business within a week
Nice.
that I couldn't get. Now, at that point in the business, we were just like gone. I mean, it was time to, and one of them actually said to me, do you want to save this business? And do you want to struggle with this forever? And I was like, no. Like, well, there's your answer. And financially, ethically, I would have loved to have made it, but it just wasn't going to work. And like, sometimes you have to decide, is this the hill you want to die on?
Yeah.
But but they have the wisdom that I don't have.
Mm.
And they're both younger than me, which is crazy. Like, you think it doesn't have to be some sage, 80, 70, 60-year-old person. Like, they're both younger than me, but they know what they're doing.
Yep.
And they have their zone of, what did you call it?
Zone of genius.
Excellence, or
yeah.
zone of genius. Yeah. And I have mine. And so now we know, like, I'm not going to go out and try to teach somebody on Facebook ads because I don't fully understand them. I don't want to fully understand them. And that's not it, So I love that. I want to talk about a little bit. We'll get back to some other things. So I looked at your website and it says life has purpose, story is important, your dreams count, and your voice matters. Why did you choose that to be on the front of your website?
Because I really believe that as entrepreneurs, we have a voice. And I actually created this voice message to send to my Activate students after everything that's going on with racial tension in America, to tell them you have a voice and your voice matters. And with your voice as an entrepreneur, you can make a greater impact. And I believe
Yeah.
that you can make an impact with your voice, you can make an impact financially. The more money you make, the more you can give. And so a lot of times people have this like weird thing about money. Like we're taught money is the root of all evil and all that crap. When in reality, if you can make more, you can give more. And so just letting entrepreneurs know that you have a voice, it matters, and you need to stand up and be bold.
I love that. Yeah, and I mean, we know, you and I know that it's not the money, it's the love of it. It's do you worship money? Is that your most important thing? And
Yep.
and one of my mentors, Greg Todd, he told me he's in Tampa, Florida, but he was telling me one day, and he tells us all this. He says, like, the more money you have, the more impact you're going to make. Like,
Yep.
if you have more money, it's just going to make you more of who you already are. Are you a jerk?
Yes.
Well, then you're going to be a bigger jerk.
Yep.
But are you somebody who's a servant and wants to help people? Yeah, well, then you're going to help and serve more people.
Yep.
And I fully believe that. And I love what you said about our lifestyle hasn't changed, and his lifestyle. He has a wife and 4 kids, and his wife talks about how they still shop at Goodwill and buy clothes. And, it's like, I love it because it hasn't changed them. And it hasn't changed you. It won't change me. But I absolutely love that you have that messaging on your website. And I wanted to make sure we call attention to that, because I feel like we all have a God-given purpose.
Yep.
And Rachel, you're the only person that can fulfill your purpose, and I feel like I'm the only one that can fulfill mine. And so many of us extinguish that purpose and don't live it out.
Yeah.
So what skills do you feel like really pull you apart and set you apart from other people? Where's your zone of genius?
Oh gosh. I'm very consistent. That's something that I think a lot of, and I'm persistent too. I always say, as an entrepreneur, I have to be consistent and persistent. I'm very stubborn, strong-willed child, as my mom would like to say, which just means, like, in my first business, I tried a whole bunch of stuff and a lot of it didn't work, but I was just in that position of, I refuse to give up. Like, something's going to work. And so that, I think, has really served me well. Another thing is, I'm not afraid to be myself and to show up authentically. And so, I mean, if you watch the video we did yesterday on race and unity, I was crying in that video.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't help it. Like, I am who I am. And I did another Facebook Live podcast this morning with one of my students, and I ended up breastfeeding towards the end because I have a baby that needs to eat. I'm just gonna move the camera up a little bit, so I'm not gonna, like, flash everybody. But I think that people crave authenticity and they want to develop a connection with people, especially now. And you just need to be yourself and put yourself out there. And that's when you can really connect with your tribe, the people that you love to work with. And that's been really helpful for me, at least.
Yeah, I think I agree. We crave authenticity. I was in a mastermind group with a young physical therapist like me, and he says, we've gone through this whole program. This is like our last yearly meeting. We had 4 weekends where we all met up and spent the weekend together. And the last one of the year, he says, guys, I just, when I don't know something, I just make something up and fake it so nobody knows. And we all started laughing because he is literally the youngest person in there. We're all like, yeah, we know. And he's like, how do you know? I'm like, because people can smell that. They can see it.
Yep.
Like, just say you don't know, it's better,
Yep.
And we used to be told it, and when I was in physical therapy school, to fake it till you make it. And that was kind of our motto. But no, gosh, do not fake it. Let people know that you're struggling. I love it. I'm going to cry when I watch that later, because I'm going to see you crying, and I'm a big time crier since I had kids, or since my wife had our kids. I didn't have them. But they, like, they can do something and I just start going.
I know. We start talking about the kids and then I just lose it. And I'm like, oh,
but that's okay. I mean, it's okay. It's who you are. And I love that, because we need more real people in our world.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason we're here, is because we have people that aren't real and don't say, or, one, people are afraid to stand up because things like what's happened in these last 2 weeks will happen. And, but we need more good people like you and your husband and the other guests I've had on this podcast to stand up and say, hey, this isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
We need to do something different. Here, I would love to help you in this way.
Especially now, it's like, just stand up, and you don't have to have the answers. I was watching a video of Stephen Furtick, and Ooh, who was he interviewing? I can't remember, but if you go to Elevation Church, you'll find it. And he was just saying, like, I'm gonna mess up and I'm gonna say the wrong thing, but we have to have the
Sure.
conversation anyways. Like, you can't
Right.
be afraid to just to speak up. And if you say the wrong thing, it's okay. Like, you're probably going to, but just come with that. Like, I'm learning and I'm here and I'm willing to have the tough conversations, and let's learn together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I did a live video a couple of weeks ago about it. I guess last week when it started, and I was thinking about this yesterday. I grew up in the South. I'm in Louisiana.
Hmm.
We grew up in the South, and there is so much prejudice and racism. It's everywhere.
Hmm.
It really is, and I've grown to not love that. I've grown to understand that it's everywhere,
Hmm.
and it's not just in the South. Because if it was, then there wouldn't be any problems anywhere else. But I think before I've been afraid to speak out and say, I've lived through that prejudice and racism stuff, and even was taught some of it growing up.
Mm.
And I remember, and I'm going to do a live on this week because one of my friends that taught me this posted yesterday. Um, when I met her, I was 19, and she's 10 years older than me. It's a Black woman, and that's when like her and another Black lady who was probably my mom's age, like basically raised me as a college kid, like because that was my first real job or my second job, but it was in a physical therapy clinic, and they raised me and they taught me things, and I spent time with them. And when I see them, I hug them, I kiss them on the cheek. I love them both so much. And I just think like, had it not been for those two women,
Hmm.
where would I be today? Would I still be, believing some of those things that I had been taught? And not necessarily by my family, but just by other white kids and white people, and just seeing the hateful things that have happened. And would I still be that person? And I hope and I pray that I wouldn't be, but I've been afraid up until now to even mention that. But it's the truth, and I can't help that that's how I was raised, but I can do something about it now.
Yep.
And we all have that. There's this video circulating around Facebook, and it talks about privilege, and it says, I don't know if you've ever seen this one. I saw it 3 times yesterday, but it's like, anybody that has both their parents don't take a step forward. Anybody that's, I don't know if you've ever seen that, but anyway, it's like it's a race for $100 bill, and like in the end, there's like 30 kids in the back and 20 in the 20 or 30 in the front, and it's like, this is what privilege looks like.
Hmm.
Do you have both your parents? Well, then you're privileged. Have you ever been discriminated against? No. Well, then you're, all these things, and we don't think about it. And this is not really where I wanted the podcast to go, but it's where we're going. So we're
Yep.
going to talk about it, because it's important, but we have to be able to say, hey, this is wrong. And let's stand up. And I believe being an entrepreneur gives us, one, a platform, and two, gives us more resources to help other people
Yep.
that we might not have helped.
Exactly.
So, wow, I didn't want to really want to go all there, but that's where we went.
Yep. We went there.
We went there. So I want you to tell me this, Rachel. When you were a kid, what did you feel like success looked like to you, or what were you taught that it was?
Winning.
Winning?
Yeah. I played volleyball super competitively, and I ended up getting a full ride to play at the University of Illinois. We won the Junior Olympics my senior year.
Wow.
So I grew up and I played at a very, very competitive, the number one club in the country. And success was doing more than was asked or expected, to be the first one to show up, the last one to leave, to give 150%, to pay attention and focus on the tiny little details that most people miss, and to never give up on yourself or on your teammates.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So what do you feel like has changed now? What do you feel like success is now? Or is it the same?
That's a good question. I feel like it is the same, but I feel like I worked very hard. Like when I played volleyball, I was the first person to come, the last person to leave, and I ended up playing through injuries that still hurt me to this day. So it was very hardcore, and I would say now it's more relaxed and just letting, not, I don't want to say letting success happen, but knowing that success can come easier, and you don't have to like strain towards it. It doesn't have to be like crazy hard work. It can be a lot easier than what I did back in the day.
Love it. I love that answer. You don't have to beat your head up against the wall. You can think and get there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I have a couple more questions. These are my favorite ones. If you could write a book about your life, what would the title be and why?
Oh my goodness. I wish you asked me this ahead of time.
No, I don't want to. That's why I asked it
Oh,
now.
what comes to my head is you were born to make an impact. And we already talked about that. It's just
Yeah.
everyone has that unique gift that they can use to serve the world.
Yes, I love it. You know, I think about so many things, and one of the other things I'm very passionate about is abortion. And I think about how many kids have been murdered too, and we will never know what they were going to do in this world.
Mm.
Um, and but I also think on the other side of that is like I'm gonna go fishing with my dad Friday. Like I've taken off. I'm not doing it. I'm like, Dad, can we go fishing? He's like, Yeah, we haven't been fishing together in a couple of years. And I'm gonna ask my dad this question: What does he think he's been successful in life?
Hmm.
I know he has because I see who he is and how he's done. But I want to know. I've never asked him that question before, and he's probably going to jump out of the boat and swim away. But I just want to see what he says because it's like I think with everything going on, it's time to have real conversations with people
Yeah.
and not just the shallow things that we talk about from day to day.
Yep.
Um, but I love that born to make an impact. I absolutely love that, and I think when you have that mindset, Rachel. I mean, I feel like you're going to be a better mom, a better wife, a better friend, a better leader.
Yeah. I mean, it's just showing up and seeing how could you live up to your God given potential, you know?
Absolutely. And I mean, because I'll ask you this: Do you feel like there's been times that you didn't live up to your potential?
Totally. Especially like the last 2 months of pregnancy, I was like just exhausted and I was on the couch and I watched the entire series of Desperate Housewives. Um, totally being honest with you, which is something like I never really do. And I usually have like my morning routine and I don't watch the news or like all this stuff. But it was just kind of like, I'm in chill mode. So there has been moments for sure. I'm human. I'm not perfect by any means. Um, but I would say like 80 to 90% of the time, I usually like try to get my morning routine in and, check the boxes
Right.
of what I'm trying to do and accomplish for that day.
Yeah. I think it's okay to give yourself permission to break out of that routine every time and
Yeah.
or sometime and relax. And I think the last 2 months of pregnancy is pretty good
It's a
permission.
good time to do it, I think.
Yeah. I would say I wouldn't let my wife do whatever she wanted those last 2 months.
Oh, it
Awesome.
was rough.
Well, I want to. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Oh my goodness, we have resigned to no more children unless we adopt them, and so
It's a good idea.
we so let's just skip the pregnancy and just start with
I
a new
like
one.
that idea.
That's what. Yeah, my wife said I could either if I wanted any more children, I had to find someone else. So,
Oh my gosh.
so we're done. I'm not doing that. I want to ask you one last question. Uh, how important do you feel like that your normal routine is, and to have an actual routine to follow?
Oh, it helps so much. And I realize it now, especially that my routine has been disrupted so much with a newborn. Just like trying to sleep whenever I can. And, with her, it's been a lot of sleeping in just to catch up and taking naps. And now she's sleeping better, hallelujah. Because in like the first month, she was up every 30 minutes to an hour, and I was just like exhausted. But today I actually woke up at 3:45, which never that doesn't happen often. But I was like, yes, I have time to like read the Bible and do like meditation and write out my goals and do all these things that I love to do. So when
Yeah.
she's like consistently sleeping through the night, I'll be able to consistently get up earlier and do that. But I think for people that don't have a newborn child at home, it should be like foundational of every day you have this set routine. A really good book to read is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, just talking about the different lifesavers that you should do every day, exercising, meditating,
Hmm.
visualizing your success. Like there's so many. It doesn't have to take you that long. It could be like 10 to 30 minutes, but it really
Right.
sets yourself up. And if you start to study successful people, they have things in common. And
That's right.
successful people are the ones that are waking up earlier and they are doing those things that Hal mentions in the book. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I was actually going to say, yeah, like the Miracle Morning.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I love it. I think Tony, oh gosh, brain just, so there's a Tony Perkins, and then there's a
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins.
Yep.
Tony Robbins, I think, is the one that says success leaves clues.
Yes.
And, we have to follow those people.
Yep.
So I'm going to put Miracle Morning. What other book recommendation would you give for entrepreneurs that want to learn?
Let's see. Anything? Any topic?
Yeah, anything. Whatever you want to say.
Building the Story Brand by Donald Miller. That's the first book I have my students read.
Love it.
Now Traffic Secrets by Russell Brunson.
Yes,
I'm having all my students read that one now too. Let's see. John Maxwell, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Growth, and also the 5 Levels of Leadership. Anything John Maxwell, basically.
Yes.
And then Tony Robbins, all of his books. But if you want to learn like financial stuff, obviously Unshakable and Money Master the Game, critical.
That's amazing. You just gave me like a whole shelf of books to get.
Yep.
I love, I just got Traffic Secrets last week.
Oh, it's so good.
I haven't started it yet because I started reading Influence last week. Mm-hmm. And I think that book should probably be illegal to read, but I love it. But anyway, I have Building a Story Brand. I've listened to it. I've read it. I love Donald Miller's podcast. I would pretty much, if I could give my left ankle and foot, I think I would move in and just learn from him daily.
Oh, he's awesome.
He's amazing.
Yep.
I love him. He's amazing. Rachel, if we want to find you, where can we go to look you up and work with you?
Yeah, our podcast is the She's Making an Impact podcast. Our blog is shesmakinganimpact.com. You could grab my free Pinterest cheat sheet when you're there. And then on Instagram at She's Making an Impact.
Perfect. And all that will be in the show notes and definitely the free checklist because I want people to have access to that. Yes. So, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.